as the first rays of dawn pierced the humid veil of the Philippine jungle on August 14, 1945. In the shadowed valleys of Luzon, a line of 24 Japanese women stumbled forward, their wooden geta clacking faintly against the muddy earth. The air hung heavy with the scent of rain-soaked ferns and distant gunpowder, while the incessant chirp of cicadas underscored the silence of defeat. These women, auxiliary nurses and clerical staff from the Imperial Japanese Army's remnants, bound by ropes at their wrists, felt the weight of their empire's collapse in every weary step. Their faces, gaunt from months of rationed rice and foraged roots, betrayed no emotion, only the stoic resolve drilled into them since childhood. Yet beneath that mask, hearts pounded with the certainty of impending doom. This moment, etched in the final throes of the Pacific War, marked not just the capture of these women, but a profound intersection of cultures and ideologies. As Allied forces swept through the islands, mopping up isolated Japanese units after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they encountered holdouts who had evaded surrender for weeks. Among them were these female auxiliaries, part of the roughly 1,000 Japanese women serving in non-combat roles across the theater, nurses tending to the wounded in makeshift field hospitals, clerks managing supplies amid dwindling resources. Historical records from the U.S. Army's 37th Infantry Division detail the discovery of such groups in northern Luzon, where American patrols, expecting fierce resistance, instead found emaciated survivors emerging from caves and bunkers. Interrogation reports preserved in the National Archives note that these women, aged 18 to 35, had been mobilized under the Volunteer Corps system established in 1944. A desperate measure by Tokyo to bolster manpower as the war turned grim. Their capture came mere days before Emperor Hirohito's broadcast announcing Japan's unconditional surrender on August 15, symbolizing the abrupt end of a conflict that had claimed over 2 million Japanese lives and reshaped the world order. The Japanese women had been conditioned to anticipate the worst from their captors. Imperial propaganda, disseminated through radio broadcasts and military indoctrination, painted Americans as barbaric demons-ogres who devoured children, raped without mercy, and tortured prisoners for sport. The enemy is a beast, their officers had warned, citing fabricated atrocities to steel their resolve. These auxiliaries expected interrogation under duress, perhaps summary execution in the jungle, or worse, the dishonor of violation that would taint their families forever. One survivor, later interviewed by Allied intelligence, recalled the prevailing belief: "We were told the Americans would treat us as animals, stripping us of dignity before death." Yet, as they were herded into trucks rumbling toward an American detention camp near Manila, reality began to diverge sharply from these grim expectations. The soldiers guarding them, young GIs from Ohio and California, offered no immediate violence. Instead, they handed out canteens of clean water, cool and abundant, unlike the brackish streams they had sipped from for months. Whispers rippled through the group. Was this a trick to lower their guard? Factual accounts from U.S. military logs corroborate this initial bewilderment. The 129th Infantry Regiment's War Diary entries for August 1945 describe the processing of 47 female Japanese prisoners, noting their emaciated condition and evident surprise at humane treatment. Medical examinations revealed widespread malnutrition, with average weights below 90 pounds, and diseases like beriberi rampant from vitamin-deficient diets. One report quotes a captured nurse: "We prepared for death, but you gave us medicine." This contrast extended beyond physical care. As the women arrived at the camp, a sprawling compound of tents and barbed wire under the watchful eyes of MPs. They were segregated into a women's section, where American WX, Women's Army Corps, and Army nurses took charge. These American women, over 350,000 of whom served during the war, embodied a stark departure from Japanese norms. In Japan, women's roles in the military were auxiliary and subordinate, confined to support tasks under strict male oversight. Female officers were virtually non-existent, as societal hierarchies rooted in Confucian traditions relegated women to obedience and domesticity. Yet here, American women in khaki uniforms moved with authority, issuing orders to male subordinates and addressing the prisoners directly. It was in these interactions that the trembling began, not from fear alone, but from a profound cultural shock. The Japanese auxiliaries, trained to avert their eyes in the presence of superiors and to speak only when spoken to, found themselves addressed as equals by these tall, confident American women. "Sit down, please," one WAC sergeant said through an interpreter, gesturing to benches with a casual wave, as if conversing with peers rather than captives. Historical evidence from declassified OSS, Office of Strategic Services, interviews captures this moment vividly. A 22-year-old Japanese clerk recounted, The American woman looked me in the eye and asked my name, not as a prisoner number, but as a person. My hands shook. In Japan, women do not speak so freely to strangers. Another auxiliary, a former schoolteacher mobilized as a typist, noted in her post-war memoir. They offered cigarettes and smiled, saying, "We're all women here." I trembled, for I had never been spoken to without hierarchy. Data from the occupation period underscores this disparity. In pre-war Japan, women's suffrage was non-existent, and only 12% of women held paid jobs outside the home, mostly in low-status roles. In contrast, American women, empowered by the 19th Amendment since 1920 and wartime necessities, occupied positions of command, with over 8,000 WAC officers by 1945. Weaving through these encounters was a simple yet potent symbol, a bar of chocolate. American soldiers and nurses carried these Hershey's rations, emblems of a nation's industrial might and consumer plenty. In Japan, chocolate was a rare luxury, hoarded for the elite or rationed sparingly during the war. Its sweetness, a distant memory amid the bitterness of defeat. The first offering came tentatively, a WAC nurse unwrapping a bar and breaking off pieces for the prisoners. "Try it," she urged, her tone devoid of condescension. The Japanese women hesitated, suspecting poison, but hunger prevailed. As the rich, melting cocoa touched their tongues, eyes widened in silent awe. One report from the Army's Psychological Warfare Branch details how such gestures fostered rapport. Distribution of chocolate and gum reduced hostility. Prisoners expressed astonishment at American generosity. This bar of chocolate recurred in daily routines, slipped into meal trays, shared during medical checks, representing not just caloric abundance, each bar packing 600 calories from a land of plenty, but the democratic ethos of equality. In a society where resources were allocated by rank, this casual sharing underscored America's ideal of shared prosperity, where even enemies could partake. As days turned to weeks, this exposure catalyzed a transformation in the Japanese women's perceptions. Initially rigid with indoctrinated hatred, they began to question the propaganda that had defined their worldview. Interrogation transcripts reveal gradual shifts. One auxiliary admitted, "We saw Americans as monsters, but they healed our wounds and fed us more in a day than we ate in a week." Caloric intake records show prisoners receiving 2,200 calories daily, double their wartime rations, leading to rapid health improvements. Emotionally, the equal treatment from American women challenged ingrained ideologies of superiority and submission. In Japan, the cult of the emperor and militaristic Bushido exalted hierarchy, with women as vessels of national purity. Yet here, American women demonstrated autonomy, driving jeeps, debating politics, and treating Japanese counterparts with respect that transcended victor-vanquished divides. A poignant quote from a captured officer's diary, later translated, "Their women stand tall, unafraid. It shakes the foundation of what we were taught." This ideological tremor extended beyond the camp. Repatriated in late 1945 under the Potsdam Declaration's terms, which facilitated the return of over 6 million Japanese from overseas, these women carried seeds of change back home. The bar of chocolate persisted as a bridge in this evolution. During informal gatherings permitted under Geneva Convention guidelines for POWs, American nurses shared stories of home, passing around the treat. "This is from Pennsylvania factories," one explained, evoking images of assembly lines turning out endless supplies, a far cry from Japan's bombed-out industries. For the Japanese, it symbolized the abundance born of democracy, a system where innovation and equality fueled production, yielding 17 million tons of food aid to occupied nations by 1947. One woman's post-war reflection, documented in a 1946 SCAP, Supreme Commander for the Allied Powers survey. "The chocolate melted away our fears, revealing a world where women could be free." This shift influenced broader reforms. Under General Douglas MacArthur's occupation from 1945 to 1952, Japan's new constitution granted women voting rights in Article 15, leading to 39 women elected to the Diet in 1946, a direct ripple from such cross-cultural encounters. Yet amid the facts lay deeper emotional currents. The trembling hands that first accepted chocolate bespoke not just physical weakness, but the unraveling of a lifetime's certainties. These women, who had marched into war with songs of imperial glory, now confronted the humanity of their foes. In quiet moments, as the tropical sun set over the camp, reflections stirred. How could a nation so demonized extend such mercy? The contrast evoked a poignant sorrow for lost illusions, mingled with tentative hope. One auxiliary, in an anonymous letter smuggled out and preserved in military archives, wrote, "We expected chains but found open hands. It humbles the soul." In the epilogue of this encounter, as the women boarded ships for home in October 1945, part of the 1.3 million repatriates that year, the bar of chocolate lingered in memory, a sweet emblem of transformation. It whispered of a larger truth, that freedom's abundance flows not from conquest but from equality's embrace. In treating enemies as equals, America illuminated democracy's core where women, once bound by tradition, could stand unbowed, their voices rising in unison across divides. This quiet revelation, born in a Philippine camp, echoed through post-war Japan, fostering a peace rooted in shared humanity, proving that even in war's shadow, the simplest acts of kindness can melt the barriers of ideology, revealing the universal craving for dignity and plenty.